Uncatchable. Freedom as it is. Episode 3, A New Night. Nando was been taken by the guards to the infirmary, and while they were walking, I rushed to the wall and put my hand on it, thinking that I was going to feel something special. The only thing I received was the sensation of coldness and roughness that any cement wall could have. I turned around and my sight focused on Nando and the guards. I took 2 steps and felt a sharp blow to my back, a whip to my neck, and my nose touching the ground again. This time I got angry, jumped off the ground, ready to smash whoever had pushed me, and my surprise was interrupted by the tower guard who was looking at me, scratching his head through his cap. He looked at me like a surprised dog moving his head to one side as if he were a pendulum. He raised his shoulders and made a face of annoyance, turned around and left, leaving me feeling stupid. My surprise was that the courtyard that faced the wall and the stage was empty within a radius of 30 meters or more, depending on where you looked. I grumbled again, but Nando and the guards had already gone. Angry as I went to the prison hospital, and as I got further away from the wall, I seemed to hear laughter that multiplied. It was as if many people were laughing at my fall. I turned my head back, but I saw nothing, and a few meters ahead, the laughter disappeared. And so the first days of my new life passed. If someone had told me the episodes that would follow in time, I would be so angry with whoever told me that I would think they were joking and beat them so badly that they would be knocked out on the floor because my life would not only change, but transform into something impossible to predict. I was confident that I could now control leaving my body at will. Far from the truth. I spent entire nights waiting to be able to leave, dangerous days when I tried to accidentally harm myself, letting myself be defeated in fights started by me, attempts at loneliness, looking at the wall away from the prison. All these things began to give me a bad reputation among the prison authorities, something that was warned to me by Nando. "Ray, stop doing these crazy things. You're going to end up in a psychiatric hospital or with mandatory medication." "Do you remember the day in the courtyard where I knocked you out with a kick?" I asked Nando. "Of course you still owe me one? Don't you remember anything else about that day?" "Nope, but now is a good time to get even." Boom! I fell to the ground after Nando's uppercut. I thought to myself, what a way to love each other, although the impact against the ground was taking too long. "Hey, Ray, can we talk for a moment?" whispered another different but familiar voice. There was the third party, who had invaded our cell almost 3 months ago. Now he was going to listen to me. He said he would return in a few days. "According to whom?" he replied, to which I claimed that he said he would come back in a few days. "I said a few days, Ray. It was a very intense day for you, and it's normal that you don't remember things accurately. In general, human beings arrange memories to their convenience, resulting in many problems and discussions." "Well, never mind. I want to know right now what's going on with me," I interrupted with impatience. "Let's take a walk," my invisible friend replied. Patience was not my thing, and my implausible memories of Harry Potter movies became a reality. This was because I still didn't know how to approach him. He took my hand, and we shot off. In 1 second, we were literally looking at planet Earth from space. My terror was such that I fainted, and when I came back, I was in one of the prison infirmary beds. I must confess that by this point, my mind seemed to be breaking, and when I was able to focus, I saw Nando talking to a guard and a nurse. It seemed like they were scolding him and giving him an ultimatum to behave. When someone touched my shoulder, my mind was like a depleted battery, and all I could think about was finding a nurse or a doctor who was willing to take care of me. But instead, I received a warning from the spiritual intruder. "Is it clear, Ray?" he said in an authoritative yet caring tone. "Yes, sir," I replied and lost consciousness again. As I fell asleep, I thought to myself, I'm going to end up spending my days between beatings, space travel, and fainting. I have to get out of this prison urgently before it kills me or drives me crazy. The day seemed never-ending, but night finally arrived, and the stars were never more welcome. Everything was ready to leave my body again. Here we go. The crickets made me more nervous, and the rooster distracted me. Wait a minute! The rooster? "What the hell is going on here?" I shouted angrily out loud. "Ray, go back to sleep before I knock you out again," Nando responded. "Well, do it if you dare." At this point in the story, there is no need to explain that this is not a healthy way to leave the body, but I decided to take advantage of the opportunity. Let's take a tour of the prison. The first thing I did was check everything that was happening in the cell, Nando snoring and my body with drool from my mouth and blood from my nose. "Nando, you went too far this time." "You'll pay for it when I wake up," I said aloud, pointing my finger at him. My first attempt was to take off, imagining that jumping would be enough to achieve it. Again, I was wrong and spent almost 2 hours imitating a kangaroo. "Ray, leave everything as it is. Don't draw any conclusions and go through the bars of the cell," I thought to myself as I began to walk down the main hallway. I saw friends and not-so-friendly people in their intimate rooms. Some were sleeping soundly, others were reading or looking at their phones, some seemed too fond of each other for my taste, and others were crying. I felt a lot of sympathy for everyone, feeling like we were all learning a spiritual lesson together. I understood how wrong the entire prison system was, and as I tuned in, I could perceive shadows around my fellow prisoners. My amazement left me absorbed, and without time, those shadows began to take shape more clearly until one of them turned its head to look at me. I understood that I was the one who was bothering them, but that wasn't the end of it. More and more clearly, the eyes of a beautiful woman materialized before my amazement. Her gaze and attitude focused on me, and I fell into a kind of magnetic trance, as I could not move even if I tried. Her voice spoke to me. "You're Ray, right? This is my son. Do you know him?" By this point, my mental capacity had broken. All my senses crumbled under the enormous flow of questions piling up in my brain. Immediately, I woke up in my body, crying uncontrollably, jumped out of my bed, grabbing onto the bars of the cell, shouting the name of the one who had been visited by his mother. "Will! Will! Respond to me, William! Wake up!" I shouted between the bars. My commotion woke up a few people, including some guards who hurried to see what was going on. Seeing me in a sea of tears, with half of my face swollen, my nose bleeding, and my constant calls for William, the guards decided to take me out of the cell and bring me to the hospital's guard station, not without first waking up Nando with a baton, who saw the situation with only one eye, moved his iris towards the guards, then towards me, back to the guards, and said to me in an ultimatum tone, "Tell them, Ray, that I have nothing to do with this. Now!" The next thing I knew was told to me the next morning at the hospital guard station.